All right, Charles. We would like to know, basically, I just got started now by telling you about how much I know about you. For sports, and I believe that a whole lot of people out there don't know who you are as well. And so we want to use this opportunity to know who exactly is Charles Emembolu and what exactly made you into the IT space. Over to you, Charles.
Okay. Okay, let me not give you the version from my church. Okay, so I'm Charles Uchenna Emembolu. I am an IT architect by training and a project manager, a certified project manager. So professionally, that is what I trained at. So between my profession, which is basically core IT infrastructure, which I trained to become certified in designing IT systems as an IT architect. I also manage large-scale projects, but most of my experience has been in large-scale software and hardware projects. So this is my base. And I spent the first 12 or more years of my career basically doing these two things at varying degrees across the telecommunications and financial services industries. But the last 12 to 14 years of my life has been very, very interesting. This is when I began to delve into talent development, whilst running my IT consulting firm. So sometime in 2013, I decided to leave paid employment completely and build out my consulting firm. Within a year, I suddenly discovered a huge talent gap. This was about 2013. I discovered a huge talent gap. The kind of talent I had access to whilst in the corporate world, which we could attract by virtue of branding of the corporate organizations or the virtue of the monies that those organizations could pay. I suddenly realized that there was a lot of, pardon my language, crap out there, people that could do better. Smart, but limited skills. So it made me start to think. First of all, we started a small training program where I tried to share, and it didn't start today. I was called teacher as a kid, right? I love to impart knowledge. So, and then even in my places of work, at some point I was the IT training manager because I would always kind of, create or develop trainings or begin to request for people to gather for them to learn on specific projects or generally. So I started doing that in my place of employment. But the sweet thing about entrepreneurship is that you can actually express yourself. There's a lot of flexibility. If you can think it and you have the energy, you can do it, right? So by 2015, I had partnered with a friend, a childhood friend, colleague, and another IT professional called Aniedi, who we founded TechQuest STEM Academy together. And I still remember those early days in July 2015, if I remember correctly, when we ran 4 programs out of Lagos, across different parts of Lagos through the summer program, teaching people 6 to 16 years on how to write computer programs. And the next year we introduced digital electronics. So they basically would learn Scratch, they would learn Arduino, using Arduino kits. We would teach them with robotics kits. And it was interesting. We had sold out programs across Lagos, right? And after that, I was so, alive. I thought, wow, we were charging 100,000 naira at the time per student, and the classes were sold out. Then it wasn't, digital skills wasn't a thing the way it is today. Unemployment wasn't also a thing. We still had a bit of the boom from, the 2010, 2012, still in the air. Bankers were still buying brand new cars, and people could earn. There were jobs if you really wanted to work. So we focused on kids. Just to make it chronological, by 2016, 2015 December, actually, I had a chance meeting. I attended the inauguration party for the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria, which happens to be my alma mater, right? And we start talking. We get into a very nice, detailed conversation. And he says, I want to build a smart university. And he invites me to the university. And I make my first visit back to the university since Cyprus. I collected my and we came in at night. It was December. They were doing the Christmas carol that night. I remember it very vividly. And we had a long talk after the carol, had dinner. And he says, you know what, come back for breakfast and we'll present on my dining table. I will have a few people for breakfast. So between that time and the morning, I cooked up some presentation and I had understood. Initially, I thought, what does this guy want? Is he looking for smart cards, RFID? What was he looking for? Is it, I don't know. What does he mean by smart university? But at night, I understood that he was looking for smart people, smart students. And I thought that one thing that we could do was to set up a business and talent incubator on campus. So in the morning, I made a short presentation. I still have the slides till date. And I taught him what I felt an incubator was. One of the professors in that room was like, are you talking about eggs? Is it people you're using incubator for? They hadn't heard things like that before. But the professor, the vice chancellor was totally sold. And I said to him, you know what? I've been visiting quite a few countries lately. I still do travel a lot, different countries. And when I go, I don't just go on vacation. Whatever takes me there, I try to learn something new. So incubators, innovation hubs, talent centers are usually places that interest me. So I had visited quite a few, maybe 4 different ones. And I said, you know what, I do go to China twice a year at the time because I have partnership with Huawei. I said, I will take you there. You need to come and see what they are doing. Huawei has a research university that has 3,000 students, 3,000 researchers alone for just Huawei. So it's not a public university, it's for the company. So I had been there and I said I wanted to take him there and I could create a trip so that he can go see what they are doing in China. He'd never been to China. So in February 2016, we flew to China. And I had gotten my Chinese friends to curate the trip. So we actually saw more than I typically would see because mine used to be business trips, right? But I would squeeze in something. This trip was specific to, this kind of thing. So we visited a lot of talent hubs. We eventually met the guy running the Huawei Academy across the country. So 2 things materialized from that trip. One was that we brought the first talent academy in Nigeria, Sub-Saharan Africa actually, called HINA, Huawei Authorized Information Network Academy. Brought it to Nigeria and domiciled the first one at the University of Nigeria. But the second thing, which has become a significant milestone in my life, is that I set up in partnership with the university and under a public-private partnership, Nigeria's first university embedded incubator, business and technology incubator. So basically, what does this mean? It meant that and it's called RA Nigeria Hub, RA like a lion. So for those that may know, UNN's mascot is the lion. And they would always say, great lions and lionesses. And you hear, so that's how they greet. So we thought of a name and we gave it the RA Hub, and that became that milestone there. And with RA, we've achieved so many things over the years, which is basically taking a lot of student-led businesses, getting them access to researchers on campus, and having them have their first taste at building technology-enabled businesses. Most of the businesses would never become Paystack directly, but it's an incubator. It exposes. I still remember standing on that podium the first few times And I heard so many things like, so what you mean is that you're here to steal our ideas. And then we had a mandate that you couldn't be accepted at the hub if you didn't have a co-founder. And for those of you that know people from my tribe, Igbo people are very sometimes businesses, they can run one-man business that they'll hand over to their wife and grandchildren. And we were trying to use this hub to break that jinx, to say if you want to come into this nice space, you must have a co-founder. So many of them, they say, "Oh, but I can't do everything." I say, no, you must have a co-founder. So these are some simple things that hubs do. We like to talk about the big ones, but I can tell you that a lot of our founders have come out from there to start their second businesses, their third businesses, or to run businesses other people have built. And because of that early experience, it becomes, they have more potentials for success. So it's an incubator in the real sense. It just incubates your mind, enables you with basic early skills. It's not necessarily an accelerator where you're trying to make $1 million, okay? Even though we hope to get there someday. So we began to run these two talent accelerators. TechQuest, focusing on digital skills. RA, which also did a bit of digital skills, focusing on research-supported or research-enabled business and technology-enabled businesses, right? So this is, and then on the side, I was still running my consulting business, which is what paid the bills. A lot of these things are passion businesses. Increasingly, it's getting better because I know that TechQuest, just before COVID, began to pay their salaries. But before then, we would have to always pay their salaries from Crest Sage, which is the IT consulting firm. ROA still doesn't pay their salaries. We actually just pay it, but the university provides support with this generator and power and a few support staff. We provide for the rest. So that's basically how that runs. And in 2018 actually, we had a meetup at Arusha. A few friends of mine, CFA inclusive, and the conversation came up on how to build synergy, how to synergize around this whole incubation and talent or innovation hub space. And fast forward to 2019, I became one of the founders of an innovation network called Innovation Support Network. I still remember the first physical meeting at Impact Hub Lagos, early, I think it was February 2019, where I personally had presented on the corporate governance structure where we are trying, it was called Hub Network Village or something. No. It was called something Hub then, but we eventually changed it to ISN. Okay, and I'm trying to get that name so that you get it. HOV, Hub Owners Village. That's what it was called, Hub Owners Village. So we still have the WhatsApp, we've left it there, and then continue with ISN. Sometimes we go there and banter. So we founded, ISN was founded in 2019. We were able to put together 75 innovation hubs across Nigeria under that platform. We were not really sure what to do with it. We were sure we needed to be together. We needed to have one voice. We needed to leverage our strengths. And ISM took off. We had the first board, Tommy Davis, under the leadership of Tommy Davis. And he ran that board until, at then I was quite busy. COVID was good to me, very, very good to me, because my family lived in the UK, and COVID, I just come back in January ending of 2020 from spending Christmas with them, and COVID struck. So I'm fast forwarding now to 2020 and how things moved, right? And I thought they were never going to lock down the world, so I stayed back. Wrong mistake. So I ended up spending 5 months here alone. And But it was very good for me because I lead a very, very busy life. So I had never from the time I started work until then, I'd never really had time with myself to sit locked up and review the past several years. And two things came out of it. One is that I was able to take stock, and I found out that less than 10% of my effort brought me 90% of the money, the 90-10 rule or 80-20 rule, as some people may say. So that enabled me to decide what I would do for money and how much time I would give it. And that released a little bit more time. Not that the time became free, but it just kind of pushed it into the areas that I felt more alive, and more interested in. You get? So that enabled me also take a decision. I said I was going to give a lot more time to things like TechQuest, talent development generally, TechQuest, and ISN. So I decided, I had been invited in 2019 to join the board of ISN. I'm like, man, I'm never gonna have this time. So you guys just go ahead. So people like CFA jumped headlong. I didn't. But by the end of COVID, end of 2020, I decided I was going to put a lot of time and effort to try to help in more direct ways to build out Nigeria's innovation ecosystem. So fast forward to 2021, I ran for office, and I chose the office to run for. I wanted the office, which is my strength anyway. It's easy for me to build partnerships. I've built them all through my life, right? Sorry about that. The calls keep coming in. So I ran for office, and I had streamlined my business and also decided that I was going to do a lot more in uplifting, supporting, and growing talent out of Africa. I had been trained. I had been highly trained. I don't even think I used my training in my areas of training judiciously, because I don't do as much of engineering as I can do. I do a lot more business than engineering, but I had been thoroughly trained, and I thought that it was very, very vital if we were going to move forward as a people. So I decided to invest a lot more time, not in training people in engineering directly or doing more engineering, but in supporting organizations that can put those kind of things to happen at scale. Because even if I train, maybe I can train 10 people, maybe 20, maybe 50. But my work in ISN is supporting 192 hubs today. So if there's any small uplift, each of those hubs have a community. Maybe if you mentioned your village now, maybe you find out there's a hub in your village or community or state capital that is training people daily that I don't directly train. So it means that my work is even more impactful indirectly, like that way. So that was what I decided to do. And I had a building in Lagos, which I had developed, that was ready before COVID, by the way, just hadn't been fitted out, that I had developed into 13 apartments for rent. It's been built, ready, and I said, the work that we were doing at RA in UNN was so impactful that I thought maybe I need to allocate more resources. So that was when we converted that entire space into what you know today as the TechQuest hub in Lagos. So I have a hub in Lekki currently that can take up to 350 people. So I just changed the use of that facility and put it out to talent. You get? We just finished training I attended the graduation, even though it was hybrid. We just finished training about 400 people, funded by Digital Africa. And last week, we just kicked off another train the country by the Germans and the EU. So those are the kind of things we do there that are very interesting. Today, I am the chairman of the board for Innovation Support Network. Leading that board, we've moved from about 112 innovation hubs under that network to 192 across 31 out of 36 states in Nigeria today. And we want to cover all 36 states before I step down from that tenure in another year. But that is a bit of who I am. This is what I've done. This is my life's work. But last year, I also started an organization called Exude with a partner of mine who coincidentally was a student at the time I founded RUA and was one of our first startup founders under a business called Tentacles. And he moved on from there, started another business, relocated to Finland, visited Nigeria in December 2022, and I convinced him that we needed to partner to build Exude. And today I'm happy to say that Exude is a Finnish and Nigerian-based organization, and we just got approved by Business Finland under the Tempo program to export our talent, our program and platform across the world, across the emerging markets, starting with Africa. We are currently deploying our pilot project in Nigeria, and we've just released last month our AI tool called Uzon AI. So this is where I am, and these are the things I'm doing at this point, and that's a little bit of my journey here.
Awesome, fantastic. Wow. You've been there.
Wow.
You've done that.
I missed out something I must add before somebody shoots me. That's the Omniverse. That's the Omniverse.
Okay.
So I will touch a bit on it. So in 2018, I thought it was important for us to tell our stories. And I approached a few people, but one of the people that bought into that vision because of his own past works was Obi Asika. So in 2018, we actually started building what they call the Reimagine Africa. We did video shoots. I still have it, never released. I've never released those videos. It's iconic. Obi actually consulted for me on that. He sent the crew, and we capped all of the innovation coming out of the Southeast with the professors, researchers out of the UNN. Put that into some kind of documentary, and the students that we are building out of RUA at the time. But we never did get that off the ground. COVID struck, the rest went away. And in 2022, when I had become the partnerships director at ISN, I started meeting that idea again. Obi was meeting something similar. And we said, you know what? The best thing is to bring the tech and the creative ecosystems together. So 23, Omniverse was born. And it's a collaborative effort. If you notice, we brought in different ecosystem leaders. ISM was running the deal room. The group that ran the gaming tournament were basically a group from the gaming industry. We had Beats FM run the music conference. We had the ministry run the creative industries conference. We had Digital Transformation Center Nigeria run the analogs. So Omniverse was born out of that, and I'm happy to say that this year, we had almost 10,000 footfall over 4 days at the landmark. And we've already set the date for next year. Same dates, February, same location. And we hope to have double that amount of people. We had, I think, 12 countries represented at the first year's event. We want to have at least 20 represented next year. So Omniverse is part of that story that brings together different industries countries that have the most futuristic outlook, tech and creative industries together. So we did that, and we are very excited about the possibility.
We are very excited about what you're doing too. We are very, very, very happy to be part of this. I couldn't make it to the universe. I was able to, of course, we saw everything that's been out of it. I say that's the future. That's the future. Which leads us to the next question. Before that, I've been talking about partnerships, talking about getting all the systems to the IC and international. You're already know how to do the job. Of course, this will be a conversation. But going by the only verse, try to do and see that Africa is generally lacking in money it's the area of education. So do you see AI as an opportunity for Africa to get from?
Have you used ChatGPT before? When you use ChatGPT, it doesn't make sense. It's like, how is this even possible? If I was African government, I will start that curriculum in primary 1. I will start the AI curriculum in primary 1. It is, and we need to own our own data. We need to build our DNA into those large language models, so that the outcome, the output will reflect and represent a little bit of who we are. Otherwise, it's going to be built without recognition of the fact that creativity and innovation is born in Africa, on this continent. And I'm not talking about just the Egyptian story. You look at us, from even the slaves that were exported, you saw them change cultures, dancing, diversity. They went with everything. Our food, it's us. And AI is that first level digitalization that is interactive. Books are not interactive. Books were the thing that they used to colonize the world, knowledge, learning, power. The AI is interactive and is real time. You can train it immediately. Like I can go now and tell it that I'm going to be talking to these two people today, these two gentlemen from EduTimes Africa, and that this is what I want to reflect. And then it's curating. It will take a little bit of the past, a little of what I've told it, and it will present some bit of a future. But it's so iterative that if you took the output of my own iteration immediately, you can almost create something in a few seconds. So when you use the word leapfrog is something that, if you wanted to talk about one of the biggest examples from an economic standpoint, you talk about the tiger economies, the growth of the tiger, the Asian economies, and how they grew, how they were able to move on to, like, I know how India did with Microsoft. I think that was Microsoft 93. Where they were coding in America and coding in India and interchanging every night, and how that has made India become the tech capital of the world today, just because they had transatlantic cable, or not transatlantic, the transcontinental cables that brought internet, high-speed internet that connected both worlds together, right? The next best thing is AI. And I think that the most opportunity is for Africa, because you talk about the next possible change. The others are kind of more advanced than we are, but we have the youngest type of population. We're also in the deepest valleys that you can ever think of in terms of development, talent, what have you. So if you have 5% change using a tool like AI, the impact will be far bigger than whatever you can have out of Europe or America, and maybe even Asia. So That question goes without saying. And what I tell people is that our government, our organizations, our people need to embrace it completely. And embracing it, the first thing is to dominate. It means that we need to contribute, not consume.